Welcome. So happy you're here. I'm Maribeth Quinn, a mixed media painter, and today I'm going to be talking about making dynamic layers with collage paper. And I make this with, at least today, with tissue paper. I have put a listing of the kind of tissue paper that I ordered on Amazon in the notes, and it comes folded in about, groups of 10, and I just cut along the fold lines to make them really manageable sizes. Today I'm using 3 brushes, 2 flat brushes of different sizes, and then a rigger brush that I will be using for some asemic writing, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But these collage papers are just pure fun. I generally just mix up acrylic paint with water, or sometimes I'll use fluid acrylics and water. But the whole point of these is just to make something interesting. It's not to make anything perfect or uniform. Sometimes the paper will tear because this tissue paper is very thin. Now here I've stopped because a lot of times I'll put down patterns and then I'll put another piece over it. If they're extremely wet, then you can kind of get 2 pieces out of one print, really. I'm making a lot of stripes in different colors and a lot of solids. I needed some dark solids. So I'm just going through very quickly, just one piece after another. As I get done with them, I hang them on any available surface and let them dry. And they dry very quickly because this tissue paper is so thin. So here I'm doing something called asemic writing with this rigger I have. Asemic writing is just writing that really has very little to no semantic value. In other words, you're not really writing words, you're just making things that look like writing. And I really like the effect on a painting. So here you see just how I have these wet tissues draped on every surface around me while they dry. So here's the finished products. And I did this in a very short period of time. I'm guessing 15 minutes tops. But you can make these papers so easily. And as you can see right here, some extraneous paint got on the edge of that one, and I like that. That is the whole point with these tissue papers. See, that one was torn. The point is not for them to be beautiful or perfect. In fact, it is the imperfection. That is what is so interesting when you begin to layer these on a painting. So it's a great chance to play and practice, not trying to make things perfect. I was just showing you where I keep all my collage papers. I've just made a box and cut some holes in the side so I can easily pick it up and put it down really quickly. I have different categories. There's one for asemic writing, one for all the collage papers with dots. There's stripes. I love to add stripes on a painting. And then circles. I also love circles. And as you will be able to see, when these collage papers get layered over one another, especially when they're tissue, you get really dynamic things happening. So here is just a Ziploc bag of these extraneous pieces of paper. There's one from my sketch pad. These are from old paintings that I've torn apart, and just scraps of paper that I will use for texture or for adding just an area of interest on a painting. Here is some craft paper that I have stenciled some letters and numbers on. I will use those from time to time, and there's some on tissue paper. The reason I love tissue paper is because what you have painted on it continues to show, but the tissue paper itself will fade into the background. So here's some stencils that I use. I just keep those in a little Ziploc here as well. I'll use those on my collage papers. Here's a piece of bubble wrap. You can just put that into the paint, and then when you stick it on the paper, you have all these little circles. So I have a box in which I keep all of these things, and it's semi-organized. But I thought I would show you a little bit of what it looks like in action. As you can see, the painting that's on the wall is one in progress. I already have some flowers on there that some of them are painted. Oh, so here's the glazing medium that I use. It's Golden Brand, and it's satin glazing medium, and that little bottle I just held up is the bottle that I just bought at an art store, or who knows, it may be from Publix or something, you know, just an empty like utility bottle, and it's just easier for me to squeeze onto the surface. So that flower right there is one that was already made from collage tissue paper, and now I'm adding more on top of it. And since you can kind of see through it, it has a really wonderful effect. It adds dimension to the flower. You can get a couple of colors going at one time, and it just adds a lot of interest. I had someone, I think in the comments the other day, ask me, why do you put the scraps of paper on the painting? Or I've had people say, well, why don't you just paint that mark? And it is for several reasons. One is that the collage adds a little bit of texture, and in the case of this tissue paper, you can see what's happening underneath it, so it accentuates the layering, which I always love layers. That's what I dig in paintings. I just love when there's multi-dimensional things going on. But also, I think one reason I love to use collage is because it sparks different thoughts in me. And when I have different thoughts about where to go next, then chances are I'll do something new. And so it's a bit whimsical, it's very tactile, and it reminds me of childhood. And so there are many reasons that I love collage, but I didn't use much of it until just a few years ago. I think on a personal note, my uncle, who I was very close to, passed away several years ago, and he was an artist, among other things, and he loved collage. He loved to make collage pieces, and I was never interested in it, and after he passed, I found myself more interested in it. I don't know, maybe it makes me feel closer to him, or maybe he's inspiring me. But I do love these little pieces of paper. They are endlessly interesting to me, which if you, as an artist, always gravitate to materials that are really interesting to you, then you will keep going into new areas, because that's what it sparks. It's inspiring. So here I'm just adding different colors of, I think that was that bright red piece that I just made in the first of this video. I let it dry and immediately started ripping it up and putting it to use. So I'm just, here I have one with little paint dots on it. I think actually, if you look closely on that piece of tissue paper, it is actually out of a Keen shoebox. I think it has the word Keen all over it. But it's, as you can see, when you glue it onto the surface, it becomes very transparent. So you can see the paint marks that are underneath it. So here it was not having quite the effect that I wanted it to, so I added another layer. And I love the fragility of it. I love how it looks airy and wispy almost like you could reach out and touch the flower petal. So here I have a really interesting piece of tissue paper with some yellows and some probably magenta, and where those ran together, they made some orange. So it's some really, really beautiful colors all there together. And so I'm just going to put that down here on the bottom left. Now, that sort of light aqua piece underneath is a piece of collage paper, but I did not make that. It has a little cherub on it, actually, and it was some that I bought at an art store, ready-made. So I will use all kinds. I've ordered a little bag of collage papers, just all different kinds, off of Etsy, from someone on Etsy, I think. So you can get collage papers anywhere. They're in the mid to upper right. Well, now I just turned it, but you can see that there are pages out of a book of poetry. So there's some darker pieces. There's the poetry that I was talking about, or maybe some writing. But here's just some close-ups of what it looks like as the layering is taking place. Now these paintings are very mid-stage, so they're not beautiful yet. They're very interesting, but they're becoming. And one thing I have learned, it's taken me years, but I have realized that I have always had a part of my artist brain that is standing back and assessing. And when I don't see something beautiful, I get down on myself, or I say it's never going to get there, when really, in reality, nothing is ever supposed to look the way you want it to until you get to the very end. So I have really made friends with the process. And now I'm finding that I really love it. I love these mid stages where it looks very rough, it looks chaotic at times, but it's just interesting. There's a striped piece and a flower piece layered over it. Now this is a landscape, a big 46 by 46 piece of canvas. That is a piece of collage paper that I have painted over the top and then put on some tempera paint sticks. Here's some pages out of an old ledger that I found at a Goodwill store. And there's a striped tissue paper right there with some paint over it. You can add so many layers on top of these and then accentuate the marks after you put paint over them. So it's really endless what you can do with collage papers. So I hope that you have found this helpful, or at least interesting. And if you're an artist, I hope that you try this out and let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear about it. So please subscribe for my latest content, and I really appreciate you watching. If you would like, you can go onto my website and get my free guide to unleashing magic in your life with the art you buy. So come visit me on my website or on Instagram. Thanks for stopping by.